So I've got this cool little thingy. This is a Cisco Flip camera. It's a S1240. Very cool little device. USB charging. Now I believe the fault is that it's got no power. It doesn't turn on. So I'm gonna have to see what's going on. First, gotta confirm it. It's always got to be the first step in fault finding. Confirm that there is a fault. Anyway, cool little thing. Let me see if I can find a little USB extension cable and get this thing tested. Right, I've found myself a little 1 meter USB extension cable, well, half meter actually, and I've got it plugged into a USB hub connected to my laptop. I'm using a USB hub because if it does have a short, I don't want it to blow up the USB port on my laptop, to be honest. That would be annoying. Let's give it a test. Alright, connected. Ooh, it's got a light. Interesting. Alright, well, we've got red flashing lights. I suppose that could mean it's charging. I'll see if I can find a user manual for this and see what the red flashing lights mean. Could mean a fault, most probably means charging. Right, I've just been looking up the manual, which was harder to find than I expected, but still flashing red. It's been about 10 minutes. And according to this, it should come up with a battery charging indication on the screen when it's actually charging, which it's not doing, so seems like it's got a problem, which is good. Now we got something to fix. Let me see about taking this thing apart. Alright, so I'm looking around this thing. Looks like it's got a warranty sticker on it. It's come from a repair shop of some sort, I think. So which means someone must have been in it. So I can only find these two screws, which look like they hold the slide mechanism on. Otherwise, really, I would like to get into this larger side more than I'd like to get into the screen. If I could leave the screen alone, that would be ideal, really. But I cannot find any entry point at this stage. So I might have to start looking at clips along this edge. Perhaps this will open up. Do a bit of prying and poking, and hopefully not break anything. I'm going to need two hands to do this for a minute, so I'm going to have to press stop for a moment. Not exactly set up for filming yet. Maybe if I fix this camera I'll be better at it. Right, so I have released the screen. I ended up going for those screws. Now, there are 4, you can only see 2. And what I did was, I took out the 2 that I could see, which was like that. And then I lifted this side of the screen, this side of the slightly out, and then closed the screen and shifted it the other way so that I could see slightly that way so that I could see the other 2 screws. Now, I don't think this is the way it's supposed to be done, because when I did finally get it off, these tiny little spring assemblies, which spring load the screen into that nice clappy position where it claps shut and then slides open with a bit of zip. These things came apart, which is really scary because if you lose one of those tiny springs, and these things are really, really small, then you'd be in big trouble. Luckily, I was being careful and I kept them and then put them back together, and they seem perfectly fine. But I have to figure out how to actually put it back together. Perhaps the idea would be to kind of pop them off of those little lugs there. If you see those there, they clip onto those. Perhaps the idea would be to pop those off before taking it off. Perhaps I'll have to figure that out when I put this thing back together. Now, I still haven't gotten any closer to actually getting this thing open. I can't really feel any clips around the edge. I've been able to get this little part of the fascia open because it's quite flexible because of where the USB sockets are. And I can't see any clips. So I'm thinking screws, and I'm thinking underneath this, I don't know if you see here, this is a plastic cover which is stuck down with adhesive. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to nick the hairdryer from the bathroom. I'm going to warm it up a little bit, see if I can get that adhesive to release. Get that cover off. Maybe there are some screws hiding underneath it, if I'm lucky. Well, colour me wrong, because it was not under that sticker. It turns out this thing around here was also a sticker, and there were lots of screws hidden under there. Very annoying. Thank you, designer. Anyway, let's whip these out, pop the top off, and see what we got. Alright, so we're in. Three screws along the front. I've got to pop out these two ribbons. One for the screen, one for this little slide bar. And then we'll see what we got. Alright, we've got our screen out of the way. And the little control panel thing. So what we got here. Alright, looks like that's probably our battery connection. It's the first thing I'm going to check, see if I've actually got any voltage there. Or it could be this one. No, this looks like speaker. Looks like it goes down to this little guy here. Speaker. So, wonder what that is. It's not too much inside. Alright, I'm going to get my multimeter out and check this battery voltage. It was a little tricky getting that out. Had to lift up at this end and then just give it, tilt it up a little bit. Obviously only as much as these cables will allow. I really want to pull everything out. Although it looks like this little speaker, microphone, speaker, don't know yet. Let's say microphone. Let's say microphone. And then wiggle it side to side until the HDMI socket was free. Alright, let's flip it over. Ooh, hello there. Where are we here? There you are. Hello, battery. I was confused for a second. Battery wasn't immediately apparent to me. I'm a bit out of practice, I think. Making some foolish errors. Here we go. Here's our battery. See if we can measure any any volts on this puppy. Alright. Negative from here. That is dead as a maggot. Absolutely dead. Now, the problem with lithium batteries, which just about every device uses nowadays, is when they get too dead, no amount of clapping will bring them back to life. Most chargers will have an overcurrent detection, and when they try and charge a battery that's completely flat, they just go, nope. And that doesn't mean the battery is destroyed. It just means it's too flat to be charged by a regular charger. So what you can do is you can try and trickle charge it with a bench power supply, which I don't currently have, which is a little irritating. It is due to arrive tomorrow though, but that is also a project to fix. So if the power supply is broken, then we can't trickle charge tomorrow, and if the power supply is functional, then we can trickle charge this battery and bring it back to life. And I bet you this thing will work. So, I'll pull this battery out and see what I can see. So we got ourselves the 3.7 volt. To me, this battery looks like it's in good shape. It doesn't feel like it's bulged, which can happen with lithium batteries. My last phone, after 3 years, the battery bulged out and started pushing the screen out. Turned my phone into a clamshell. So this one looks alright. Let's see if I can charge it up. Right. See about a power supply. I mean, I can rig up something. I do have a small adjustable power supply, but it hasn't got a current limiter on it. And when you're trickle charging a battery, you need to set a current limit. I could do that with a little array of resistors. I've done it before, but it's a bit of a pain. And if I've got a current limited power supply arriving tomorrow, I'll just do that. Right. Let's have a look. This is why I always keep all these little plastic bags when I get components in them, so I can separate out my camera screws, board and battery screws, case screws, and these little trays. These little trays actually were part of the packing for this camera in the box, so they're handy as well. So I'm impatient. I didn't want to wait for the power supply to arrive. So I've jury-rigged current limited trickle charge setup. So I've got a little DC power supply here, set to 4.5 volts. Ideally I'd like to set it to 4.2, but just to give the battery, see if it'll take a bit of juice, 4.5 will do me for today. So we've got our output from the positive goes up to this big old multimeter, which I've just dug out of my basement, which I'll use to monitor the current. I've got it set on the 200 milliamps range. And so we go from through here, out of here, into our 45 ohm resistor, which is going into the battery. A 45 ohm resistor, a 4.5 volts, should give us, 47 ohm resistor, I didn't have a 45, should give us around about 100 milliamps current limit into the battery. And I also will have my Fluke multimeter set up to monitor the voltage at the battery. Let's just lay that on there for now, like so. So we can measure the voltage. And then we come out of the negative terminal straight to the power supply. And this should allow me to monitor the current going into the battery if everything works. So let's see what happens. I'm going to turn it on. You can see both multimeters. Oh, I actually have to plug in my power supply, which I unplugged to plug in the hairdryer earlier. Where are you? Come here. Alright. Okay, let's try that again. Let's see what happens. So we should have nothing. What do we got here? Power supply sticking out 4.5 volts. Is it getting to this multimeter? It is not. Which means it's most probably this alligator clip here is here's a bit of fault finding. Where's my alligator clip? Oh, got voltage there now. Nothing up there. What's going on here? Alright, let me use. Right, got 4.5 volts at the battery now. Current is not really measuring anything. Interesting. Is that a problem with the way I've got this set? Oh, AC, doofus. There we go. That should be it. No? Am I backwards? It's telling me I'm backwards. No. Doesn't seem right. Hello? Low battery. Come on. No way I got enough double A's to put in this thing. Right. So I'm on DC current. Is it just not pulling anything? That's possible. Wish I had my other fluke multimeter. I've got two of these, but the other one is somewhere in Australia, and the other one can measure current. This one has temperature instead of current, which is good sometimes, but mostly useless. So, what have we got going on? Why is this not giving me a reading? Voltage at the battery. Should be pulling some current. What if do I get a reading if I short this to ground? Still be a bit naughty here. Let's see if I get a reading on the multimeter. Oh yeah. Short it out. Sure knows about it. So what I was doing there, I was just shorting out the whole circuit back so that I'm putting the power feed going through the multimeter measuring current straight back to the ground terminal of the power supply, which should give me the full 2 amps out of the power supply. So I'm not getting a measurement, which is kind of annoying. But is that the power supply, the battery just not taking any voltage? It's a little frustrating. Or is this old donkey not working properly? So let's check my work. I got common. So we're coming out of the power supply into the positive terminal, out of the common terminal into, because when you're measuring current, your meter has to be in series. So it's a little bit different to the way you would usually run it. So you go into the positive terminal, the multimeter, out of the negative terminal, and continue on with your circuit. So that should be working just fine. Hello. Well, it's been a couple of hours. This thing's pulling no amps. That is why it reads no amps, because there's literally taking nothing. No matter what voltage I set it to, it takes nothing. It's not good for a battery. So I'm going to leave it a bit longer and just see if it might come back to life. You never know. Maybe I can open up the cell and see if there's something open circuit. But at that point, I think when a cell's dead, a cell's dead. We'll see what happens. Alright, I've done some more playing with this. Now I've got it between, I've got my negative side on the green wire of the battery, positive still on the red, and now I'm getting more what I would expect. So I've got the voltage, which is set to 4.5, is dropped to 3.6, and I'm pulling, if I'm on the 200 milliamp, I'm pulling about 20 milliamps, if my maths is correct. I'm not really thinking very clearly. If I'm on the 200 milliamp range, I'm pulling 20 milliamps through that, and it's pretty steady, and it's quite happy, and this voltage is slowly climbing, which is what I was expecting. So the battery is actually charging, so we'll see how this goes. Sorry, I'm not on the green wire, I'm on the blue wire. And if you look on the side of the battery there, it actually has a R plus, B minus. Now, I guess I took that as black minus, which is logical because black is usually your ground, your negative. But perhaps in this case it's not. Anyway, and also the ground and the positive pins are usually as far away from each other as possible, and the blue and the red are right next to each other, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I'm sure it'll become clear eventually. Perhaps I'm just charging a single cell and it has perhaps 3 cells in parallel. We'll see. 18 milliamps, 3.7 volts. She's climbing. I'll put this wire clip on instead of just hanging my multimeter in the air because it kept falling off. So after leaving it on the blue wire for a couple more hours, and the voltage came up as high as 4 volts and the current went down to 10 milliamps. I've now moved it over back to the black wire, and now it's charging. 2.7 has gone up to 2.8. I can see it's pulling 36 milliamps. And it should be coming back to life. It's alive. It's alive. Alright, it's been on charge all afternoon and we got a nice 3.5 volts. It's not fully charged, but I wouldn't expect it to be. I'll let the charger built into the camera do the proper charge once we put it back in. So I'm going to pop the battery back in and see if this thing works. Right, so it's the next day. I left this charging overnight. I've got a little current, USB voltage current meter on the input here. You can see it's pulling almost half an amp because it's charging, because as soon as I turned it on this morning and my daughter clocked it, she immediately took it from me and proceeded to make videos all morning. So it works. You can see here that if I... Where's the power button? Back here. Touch the button. Now it's giving me that it's charging. And if I disconnect it from the power, it seems to only work when it's not connected. It worked just fine. As I said, kids made videos all morning. It got about 2 hours battery life, which is not great, but the battery is perhaps a little old and weak. It's just been brought back from death, so it doesn't surprise me. I'll give it a few more charging cycles, and then the kids seem pretty taken with it, so I'll give it to them and they can play with it and test it. And then maybe once they're sick of it, I might get to use it. But it's a pretty cool little device. I can just pop away the USB socket. Goes like that. Record. Battery's very low. It's great. Plays back, records, it's got good sound. I like it. It's very cool. Lightweight. Easy to use. I mean, my daughter's 6 and she just took to it like a duck to water. She just started making videos straight away. So I think they're going to have a good time with it. Worth the 30 euros I spent on it, I think. They're not ready for phones yet, but they can sure make some videos on a little video camera like this. Cool. Anyway, I think that'll do for this. If any more info comes up about it, like if the battery comes back to life, if the battery life gets better, I might make a little addition. We'll see. Good little toy.